thought for 2 minutes and 6 seconds. Most systems that work well are the ones you stop noticing. They fade into the background. They become part of how things simply are. You wake up, the lights turn on, water flows from the tap, the train arrives on schedule, your phone connects to the network, and none of it feels remarkable because it never fails to happen. This is the nature of infrastructure that has been built carefully. It becomes invisible through its own success. And in few places is this more evident than in the way Seoul has woven technology into its financial system. Not as a showpiece, not as something to celebrate or point to with pride, but as the foundation beneath everything else, the thing that holds all the other things up. Seoul is a city of over 10 million people, and surrounding it, another 15 million live in the greater metropolitan area. That's 25 million people, more or less, moving through the same systems every day, commuting, working, eating, paying, transferring money, saving, spending. The logistics of this are staggering when you stop to think about them. But most people don't think about them because they don't have to. The systems work. And they work so consistently that the working itself becomes unremarkable, ordinary, expected. This is especially true in finance, perhaps more true there than anywhere else. When you buy something in Seoul, the transaction happens quickly, not because anyone is in a hurry, not because there's pressure to move faster, but because the system has been designed to remove delays. You tap your phone or your card, sometimes just your watch, and the payment is confirmed before you've finished putting your wallet away, before the thought has even completed itself. There's no waiting, no processing indicator spinning on a screen, no uncertainty about whether it went through. It just works. And this speed isn't about efficiency for efficiency's sake. It's not about being impressive. It's about removing friction so completely that the act of paying becomes almost thoughtless, almost automatic. Technology in Seoul's financial system is rarely about innovation in the way that word is often used elsewhere. It's not about disruption. It's not about startups changing everything overnight. It's not about new ideas that demand headlines. It's about infrastructure. The difference matters. Innovation suggests something new and exciting, something that demands attention, something that asks you to notice it, to be impressed by it. But infrastructure is the opposite. Infrastructure is meant to be boring. It's meant to be stable. It's meant to be so reliable that you forget it exists. And that's what Seoul has built. A financial infrastructure so deeply embedded in daily life that it no longer feels like technology at all. It just feels like the way things are done. The way things have always been done, even though that's not quite true. Consider how banking works here. Most people don't visit bank branches anymore. Not because branches don't exist, they do. You can find them on nearly every major street. But there's rarely a reason to go inside. Everything happens through apps, through screens, through systems that run at all hours, on all days. You can transfer money at midnight on a Sunday, and it arrives instantly. Not the next business day, not pending approval, not waiting for processing. Just done. This isn't remarkable to people who live here. It's not something they talk about or take pride in. It's just how banking works. But the infrastructure required to make this possible is substantial. Servers running in data centers across the country, security protocols monitoring for threats, real-time processing networks handling millions of transactions simultaneously, regulatory frameworks designed around digital-first operations. None of this is visible to the user. And that's the point. The complexity is hidden so that the experience can be simple. The difficulty is absorbed by the system so the human doesn't have to face it. There's a particular kind of trust that develops when systems consistently work. Not trust in a company, not trust in a brand or a name or a logo, but trust in the system itself. Trust in the underlying mechanism. When you tap your phone to pay, you don't wonder if it will work. You assume it will. The thought of failure doesn't even enter your mind. And when the payment goes through, you don't feel grateful. You don't feel relieved. You don't feel anything in particular because it was expected. This is the nature of mature technology. It generates trust by being invisible, by never demanding your attention or concern. And this trust, once established, changes behavior. Financial decisions happen differently when the systems around them are fast and reliable. There's less hesitation, less second guessing, less of that small pause before you commit to something. Not because people are careless or impulsive, but because the friction that normally slows decisions has been engineered away. Think about what friction means in finance. It's the delay between wanting to do something and actually doing it. The forms you have to fill out, the waiting for approval, the uncertainty about whether everything processed correctly, the need to follow up, to confirm, to check again. When those barriers are gone, decisions become smoother, not rushed, not reckless, just less interrupted, less encumbered by doubt. You check your balance, and the number is current, not from yesterday, not estimated, accurate to the second you looked. You set up an automatic payment, and you trust it will execute exactly as scheduled, because it always has before. You apply for a service, and the response comes quickly, because the verification happens in real time, without human intervention, without delay. Each of these removes a small moment of doubt, a small friction point, and when enough small doubts are removed, what remains is a kind of baseline confidence, a sense that the system will do what you ask it to do. This isn't about making finance exciting. It's about making it unremarkable. And there's something deliberate about that. Seoul's approach to financial technology seems to prioritize consistency over novelty, reliability over impressive features, or rather, speed that comes from reliability, not from cutting corners. The fastest system isn't the one that rushes. It's the one that doesn't waste time on errors, corrections, or failures. Automation handles the repetitive work. Verification happens instantly because the databases are connected and current. Approvals flow through without bottlenecks because the pathways have been cleared. And because the system is reliable, it can afford to be fast. The speed is a byproduct of the stability, not a goal in itself. There's a quietness to how all of this works. Walk through Seoul and you'll see people moving through their days without much visible interaction with financial systems. They tap. They glance at a confirmation. They move on. No lines stretching out the door, no paperwork spread across counters, no conversations about transactions that didn't go through or deposits that haven't cleared. Just quiet coordination between people and systems that were designed to serve without demanding attention. This extends beyond simple payments. Insurance claims, investment transfers, government benefit disbursements, tax filings, all of these operate through digital systems that prioritize smooth function over visible process. You request something. The system processes it somewhere you can't see. You receive confirmation that it's done. The middle steps are hidden. And in their hiding, they become trustworthy. Because you never have to worry about what you can't see. Part of this is cultural. Part of it is simply practical. Korea's population density makes digital systems almost necessary. The physical infrastructure of a city this size would struggle under the weight of manual processes. Imagine every financial transaction requiring paper signatures. Imagine every service request needing an in-person visit to an office. Imagine the queues, the waiting rooms, the administrative burden. The system would slow to a crawl within hours, not days. Digital infrastructure isn't a luxury here. It's not an optional upgrade. It's a requirement for functioning at this scale. And because it's required, it's been built carefully, not as an afterthought, bolted onto older ways of doing things, not as a layer on top of legacy systems, but as the foundation itself, the thing everything else rests on. When people talk about technology in finance, there's a tendency to focus on what's new. New apps, new platforms, new ways of doing familiar things. But in Seoul, the more interesting story is about what's old, or at least what's been in place long enough to become invisible. The real-time payment networks that clear transactions in seconds, the universal identification systems that verify who you are without asking for documents, the security protocols that run in the background, monitoring for threats you'll never hear about. These aren't new. They've been operating for years, some for more than a decade. And in that time, they've become so embedded in daily life that people no longer think of them as technology. They don't think of them as anything at all. They're just how things work. There's a concept in Korean that's useful here, though it doesn't translate perfectly into English. 당연하다, something like natural, or obvious, or expected, or simply of course. When you ask someone in Seoul about paying with their phone, they might use this word. It's 당연하다. It's natural. It's obvious. Of course, that's how it works. Why would it work any other way? This isn't complacency. It's not taking things for granted in a careless way. It's the result of systems that have earned their invisibility through years of consistent function, through never letting anyone down. When something works every time, it stops being remarkable. It stops being technology. It becomes expected, obvious, natural. And that expectation is perhaps the highest form of technological success. To become so reliable that no one thinks about you anymore. The financial institutions in Seoul operate within this expectation. Banks don't compete on whether their systems work. That's assumed. That's the baseline. They compete on other things: services, interest rates, rewards programs, features that differentiate. But the foundation itself, the reliability, the speed, the security, is simply taken for granted by everyone. This creates a particular kind of pressure, the pressure to never fail, not even once, because failure, when it's unexpected, is far more damaging than failure in systems known to be unreliable. When a system has a reputation for glitches, people build workarounds. They carry cash just in case. They call to confirm that transfers went through. They accept delays as normal. But when a system is known to be reliable, failure has no cushion. There's no backup plan. There's no expectation that something might go wrong. So when something does go wrong, the disruption is total. The trust is shaken in ways that take time to repair. So the systems are built to not fail. Redundancy everywhere. Constant monitoring. Continuous maintenance happening at all hours. All invisible. All running constantly. All in service of that expectation of perfection. This is the nature of infrastructure that people depend on without thinking about it. It must work. Not most of the time, not 99% of the time, always, every time, without exception. And in Seoul's financial system, this expectation has shaped how technology is designed, deployed, and maintained. Not for innovation, not for excitement, not for press releases or industry awards, but for reliability so complete that it becomes invisible, so total that it disappears. The younger generation here has never known anything different. They've grown up with real-time payments, with app-based banking, with digital identity verification, with systems that simply work. To them, this isn't technology. It's not impressive. It's not even noticeable. It's just how things are done. The idea of writing a paper check, or waiting 3 business days for a transfer to clear, or going to a bank branch for a simple transaction. These things seem like stories from another era, almost historical. Not worse, not better, just different and distant. This generational shift matters because it shapes expectations going forward. And expectations, once set, shape what systems must deliver to remain acceptable. When an entire generation assumes that finance should be instant, invisible, and reliable, there's no going back. The infrastructure must maintain that standard forever, or else something essential breaks. And so the systems continue running, processing, verifying, confirming, day and night, weekday and weekend, holiday and ordinary Tuesday afternoon. The transactions flow, the money moves, the records update, all of it invisible, all of it expected, all of it continuing whether anyone notices or not. There's something almost meditative about a system that works this well. Not because it's perfect. Nothing is perfect. Somewhere, something is always being fixed, upgraded, maintained. But because it doesn't demand your attention, because it doesn't interrupt your day, because it lets you think about other things entirely. You can walk through Seoul thinking about your work, your family, your plans for the evening, the book you're reading, the friend you need to call back. And in the background, quietly, the financial system handles what it needs to handle. Your bills are paid automatically. Your salary is deposited on schedule. Your transit card is charged the right amount. Your subscriptions renew without intervention. All without thought, all without effort, all without any friction at all. This is what technology looks like when it's truly integrated into life. Not flashy, not visible, not something you think about or talk about, just there, working, reliable, invisible. The foundation beneath the city's financial life, so solid and so stable that no one ever looks down to check if it's still holding. It is. It always is. And it will keep holding. Quietly. Without acknowledgement, without applause. That's what infrastructure does. Seoul continues. The trains run on schedule. The street lights glow in sequence. The people move through their routines, their days, their lives. And beneath it all, the systems that make this possible keep running too. Quiet, steady, unnoticed, as they should be.